Hey, I'm Megan from Hipstitch Academy, and today I'm going to show you how to make some work pants. They're the jeans or the pants with the big pockets on the front, kind of like that, wherever they are. I used the Megan Nielsen Dawn jeans pattern, and I used the pant leg silhouette that was somewhere between the regular and the skinny, and I made mine out of stretch corduroy. And if you want the pattern for the pocket, it is down below. I just created that based on the size that I made. It should work with any of the sizes. You may just have to make it a little smaller if you're making like a size 2 or something. So let's get started. All right, so we got a gloomy day here in the Catskills when I did this cutting. But like I said, it's the Dawn jeans, and I'm using piece 1 and 2. My corduroy is folded. So this is the tapered version or the skinny version, as I mentioned. I'm gonna make it slightly wider. There's my waistband. I'm putting that on the fold. I do need 2, so I'll have to cut that twice. That one's twice, that one's twice. The coin pocket is twice. I'm using my gajillion pairs of scissors as my pattern weights. This way, if I find a not very sharp pair, I just switch them out. And I'm gonna do my best to quickly cut all of these things out for you. So like I said, that everything that's on right now is I'm cutting 2 and my fabric is doubled. I'm gonna keep my pattern with the piece so I know what is what, and if I have to make any markings later, it's right there. So I just kind of fold it up in it. That's why I did that. Okay, and here's the waistband. As I mentioned, I folded that on half, placed it on the fold fabric, and that means since I need 2 of those, whoops, I'm gonna come back, put it on the fold again, and cut a second one, because you do need 2 of those waistbands. It's also gonna be interfaced. And then the rest of these pieces are all cut too. I'm just gonna try and place them on here to use up the least amount of fabric and waste the least amount of fabric. All right, so now we have all the pieces that I only need 1 of. So that's why I've made the fabric single layer, and I'm just cutting 1 at a time. I'm being really lazy and kind of holding down the pattern pieces as I cut. I always say this in my videos, don't stress about cutting perfectly. Yes, you want, obviously the shape of the fabric, but if it doesn't wind up a perfectly cut shape, don't stress too much. All right, I guess I've come to my senses, and I'm gonna use some pins so things don't move around too much. If you get confused about, how many you're cutting of whatever pattern piece, don't forget it says it right on the pattern piece. Cut 1, cut 2, cut 1 with interfacing, whatever it is, it's gonna be right on there. And again, I'm keeping them pinned because I don't want to forget what it is. So I realized on that last piece, it has to be right side up. So I'm cutting it again and just changing the fabric to be right side up when it's cut. That's going to make a difference. Okay, this is my pocket bag. And I don't want to make that out of denim. You just want to make that out of something that doesn't stretch, and it's what you're gonna see when you put your hand in the front pockets of your jeans or work pants. So I just did mine out of a purple linen. All right, now I'm gonna talk about this pocket. So basically, here's my method for creating the pocket. I'm literally just creating it while I do it. I'm going to make a duplicate of the front pattern piece for the front leg so that I can cut the actual front leg pattern down into a pocket. I just am finding that this is going to be the easiest way to do it. So I'm using the tapered front, and now that I've got the copy, I'm just gonna label it so I don't forget what it is. And then my actual pattern piece that was printed from the PDF and taped together, I have minimal markings on here. Obviously, I'll do some more later, but this is what I'm gonna turn into the pocket. So I'm just sort of like kind of checking it out scale wise. Again, this is made for the size 18 because that's what size I'm creating here. And I'm just using proportions. I'm just sort of estimating how high in the pant leg does this pocket go? How wide does it go? And I'm creating a rectangle. Now the rectangle on this pocket does have a little curve cut out that I'm going to go grab my hip curve ruler to create that. And now I've got my little pocket piece. And I just found it really easy to create it on there because you can see, you know, based on the front piece, how much of that front piece is going to be covered. I'm just going to straighten out a tiny bit and maybe make that curve a little bit more defined. All right, now I'm happy with that. I'm going to cut it out, label it so I know going forward this is my pocket, and I'm going to keep this pattern piece in with my Dawn jeans pattern envelope. And now I need to cut 2 of these out of the corduroy. Okay, so now I'm back inside and I'm at my sewing machine and my pinning table, and Monty has joined us. I just grabbed my piece 8, folded it in half, right sides together, and I'm just sewing the bottom edge with a 5/8 inch seam allowance. I'm going to go ahead and cut that seam allowance off and flip it right side out, get a nice sharp corner, and they want you to finish it with your method of choice. I've got the serger here. I'm being lazy. It has white thread on it, but I'm okay with it. So I'm just going to finish off that raw edge with the serger. So I forgot to mention when I started, I am doing a zipper fly version. So you have to skip to the zip fly instructions. So now that I've finished off my piece 8, I'm lining up the fly with the fly extension, piece 8. So right sides are together. Notice my zipper's way longer than my fly extension. That's going to be totally fine. Don't even worry about it. The fly extension is now going to be face down onto the left front piece. The zipper will be sandwiched in between, and I'm just going to pin along this edge and sew that with a roughly 1/4 inch seam allowance. So kind of right on the edge, zipper in between. Try not to run over your pins, but if it happens, it happens. And then I'm flipping out the zipper fly so everything is facing up on that front pant piece, okay? And then I'm going to top stitch on that left side. I've got matching, sort of matching thread on there, so you can't really see the stitching. All right, so now one side of the zipper is on there. Go ahead and get the other front piece, and then you want piece 7, and that is the fly. Put that on there with right sides together so that the crotch seam is aligned, just like the picture, just like the video, and go ahead and sew that on there with a 5/8 inch seam allowance like I'm doing right here. Okay, so now that's on there. I'm just gonna clip at the bottom of where I sewed because that's gonna make it easier to flip over to the right side. All right, so now I'm actually gonna flip that whole thing to the inside of the pants and pin it there so it doesn't flop around. And I'm gonna go ahead and put a top stitch on the right side, right where I pinned, really close to the edge. Okay, so now I'm going to take both my front pieces. One has a fly on it, one has the zipper on it. And I'm going to place the two front pieces right sides together. And at this point, I'm going to cut the bottom of my zipper off. Just don't play around with your zipper off. If your zipper is longer and you have to cut it, don't zip it. All right, so see that bottom part of the pant leg that doesn't have a zipper on it? We're gonna baste that together, 5/8 inch seam allowance. All right, so now I'm going to put the front together, and the fly is on the right side that we're looking at right now is going to cover up the zipper. Then I'm gonna flip it over and take out those pins and remove that fly extension out of the way because you have to sew the left side of the zipper. That's what I'm pinning right now, is the left side of the zipper tape, the fly extensions out of the way, and you're gonna go ahead and sew that with like a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Don't sew your zipper, just stay on the left side of the zipper tape. At this point, we're going to unpick the basting stitches. I'm doing it with scissors because I'm just being lazy. Okay, so if you're looking at it the way I am, over on this left-hand side, we've got to top stitch, but the top stitching has to hit the shape of this fly piece. So I'm just sort of pinning it as if they were stitches. And then I can kind of see the line that I need to take. And I'm gonna use my pencil to kind of draw the line that I made with the pins. And that's what I have to top stitch. Now I have to unpin that and move the pins over to this side. Or maybe I'm just gonna, I guess I'm just gonna leave those two pins that are just out of the way. And then I'm gonna top stitch along my pencil line so that that piece is attached to the front of the jeans. And you'll notice on your own jeans, that's usually a top stitching that is sewn twice. So go ahead and do that again, a 1/4 inch to the left or to the right, it really doesn't matter. But follow it and try to make it consistent so those two lines of stitching look really sharp. Okay, here's the part where I'm snipping threads and trying to get that pencil line to go away. If I got some water, it would totally go away. Snip a couple more threads here, and now I'm going to stitch that part that we've basted and taken apart. We're going to sew it for real now. 5/8 inch seam allowance up to the point of where the zipper starts. Make sure you do a nice back stitch there. And then once you've sewn it, flip it over. Try to really push those seams apart. Finger press it. If you want to press it with the iron, you can too. But you want to top stitch that and cut any stray threads that you've got going on at this point. Okay, that's the front, and honestly, that's the hard part, folks. You've gotten through the hard part. Okay, now it's time for this fun work pocket, which I'm realizing now that I'm making this video, the pockets that I put on, I'm actually wearing these as I'm editing this video right now. And I'm realizing these pockets, okay, first, let me tell you what's happening here. I'm going to clip the curved part of the pocket with tiny little snips. I have super dull scissors in my hand, so just be careful. You don't want to make these snips too big. Fold over the edge. The snips will make it easier to fold over this curved edge and top stitch that curved edge on both the right and left side. So go ahead and do that. So once that's sewn, I'm going to line up the pocket piece with the actual pants. I'm going to take a look at my illustration, line up the right raw edge of the pants with the right raw edge of the pocket. And then I'm also going to fold under the top and the side edge. And then I'm going to sew all the way around. So right now I'm sewing down the right side raw edge, and you'll see as I turned the corner, this edge I folded under a 1/2 inch and pinned. And so I'm top stitching the bottom pocket there. You don't want that to be a raw edge because it's not going to go away. Again, this side, the left side of the pocket, is folded under as well, and this is a top stitch, not a raw edge. And then I'm going to go all the way up to where the curve starts. The curve was already top stitched separately, so that's going to be the pocket opening right there, and I'm going to back stitch. And the only thing I didn't do was sew the top of the pocket, so I'm going to go ahead and slide that under and sew the top edge, top stitch the top edge of the pocket. So the only opening is that curved edge, and that's why it's such a weird pocket, because it's so long. So now I'm going to figure out where exactly to put the pocket on the other front pant leg. So I'm kind of marking the beginning and the end of the pocket so I know I can get it to match up on the left pant leg. So same thing is happening here. And see how I've lined up the bottom of the pant leg, folding under the bottom so it's exactly lined up with the other one that's already done. And then I'll straighten it out and do the same thing. Fold over that top edge, add a bunch of pins, and then the raw edges are lined up on the left side. And I only have to worry about this side where, again, fold it under a 1/2 inch and pin all the way down. And then I'm going to repeat what I did on the other pant leg and do it all over again. So you can kind of see what I mean. These pockets are really long and therefore not super useful. But if you wanted to make it a bit more useful, you could make an extra seam halfway down the pocket to divide that pocket up, and then maybe just use the upper portion of it, and then you could put stuff in there. So let me just finish up doing the sewing on of the pocket. I'm top stitching around the top until I get to that curve, and then I'm going to jump over to the other side of the pocket, which is top stitch the inner leg side. And then I'll have all my pockets on for the work pockets, that is. And then we'll go ahead and start working on the top pockets. So now I'm going to get pieces 10 and 11. There should be 2 11s and 1 piece 10. The first thing we want to do is hem the top of piece 10. So I'm going to go ahead and pin that first like this. So I'm just folding over the top edge of piece 10 and pinning it. While I'm here, I am going to fold over the other side, the straight edge of piece 10 as well. But the only thing I'm about to sew is the top edge, even though I sort of indicated I was going to sew the side. Doesn't matter if you sew the side, but you're going to wind up sewing the side again. Okay, so I sewed both, but realized after that when I go back and line it up with the piece 11, I'm only going to sew the side and the curve. So I'm going to resew the side edge and I'm going to baste the curved edge. So there's the top stitching, and I'm going to serge the curved edge, I guess. I didn't even really sew it. You can sew it or you can just serge it or finish it any way you want. So I've got the other one without the coin pocket on it doing the same thing. Now I've jumped over to the back pockets. So what I'm going to do is take those 2 back pocket pieces, 13. I'm not going to put a design on my back pocket. I'm just folding over the top edge, 2 tiny 1/4 inch folds and pinning those. And then I'm going to go ahead and top stitch those really close to the edge. Instructions say 3/8 inch. Just make sure you're on the edge of the second fold. That's where you want to be. And I move my pins to the side I'm going to sew on. It's just a good rule because then you can see your pins, right? So top stitching along there on both of those pockets, and then I'm going to turn the other edges under. So here I am. I'm going to turn the other edges under. Obviously, these are back pockets, so the top edge is stitched, and then the other edges are sewn to the actual pants. I did a little snip on that bottom middle just to make the angled bottom edges of the pockets fold up a little better. If you missed that, I'm about to do it again. So I just took those scissors, snipped right in the middle, and then it just makes that part folding it a little easier. Okay, I've pinned on the wrong side. You guessed it. I'm going to pin those to the back. I have drawn the pocket. Actually, it's on the pattern where it's supposed to be. So I just kind of lined that up. I held my pattern piece, lined it up, undoubled it. So I've just got a single layer, and now I'm moving all of my pins to the right side, and that's how I'm going to sew it around all those edges, everything except the top. Now on the other piece, it's a little more challenging because it's not drawn on. So what I'm going to do is you can see through the pattern, and so you can kind of make the pocket sketch of where the pocket is on the back side of the pattern piece. So you can do exactly the same thing and get the pocket placement the same. Now, if you are one of those people that's like, all right, you know what, I'm going to try these on and then I'm going to place my pockets on where I want them, go for it. Every time I've made these, I do feel like they wind up in a good spot. I was happy with that. Other pants that I've made, sometimes I feel like they put them in weird spots. So totally up to you. I followed the placement that is on the pattern and it worked out really well for me. All right, now we've got the pockets on, and I'm gonna go ahead and grab piece 14, which is the yoke. And notice that you can look in the diagram, and you can also look on the video. When you are pinning the yoke on, the left side is a bit taller than the right side. So you got to make sure that you line it up correctly like I'm doing here. Pin that on there, and then you're going to sew the yoke to the back pant leg with a 5/8 inch seam allowance. And then after you've sewn it, run it through the serger or finish it with a zigzag stitch, whatever your preference is. And then I'm gonna flip it up, press it, and do 2 lines of top stitching on there. And then once you've done that, go ahead and sew the 2 pant legs together along the curved seam. So right where I've pinned is where you're going to sew with a 5/8 inch seam allowance right up through to the top of the yoke. I'm going to run that through the serger as well, and then I'm going to iron that open and top stitch 2 lines of top stitching right down the middle of the butt. Okay, I did skip around a little bit, but we're gonna get back to these front pocket bags. We're gonna grab piece 12. There's 2 of them. And then I want you to get the pocket reinforcement, the pocket facing, sorry, with the one with the coin pocket on it and then the one without it. And you're going to place them right sides up onto the right side of the pocket bag. So both of these pieces are right sides up, and you're just going to stitch around the 3 sides of the pocket facing on both pocket bag pieces. Okay, we're back at the section of the instructions called front pockets. I did skip around a little bit. I guess I was really excited about sewing those back pockets on, but now we are doing the front pockets. All right, so now that those pocket facings, they're kind of like the pocket reinforcements, and it's what's gonna show on the front of the jeans. Now we're gonna flip those pockets over and line up this curved edge with the curved edge of the front of the jeans. So see where I'm pinning? They're lying face down, right sides are facing each other. I'm pinning along this curved pocket seam, and I'm going to go ahead and sew that on there using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So sew that on there. And once it's sewn on there, we're just gonna make little clips in the curve. So that'll flip over nicely. We're gonna flip that all into the inside and press it with the iron or finger press it. Same thing on the other side. Flip that to the inside and give it a nice press. So you can go ahead and top stitch that. All right. All right, so now that they're in there, I'm gonna fold that pocket in half. And then it's gonna get basted to the edge of my pants, and the bottom edge of the pocket has to be sewn shut. So I fold that, and then what happens is the pocket facing is what shows onto the front of the pants. So we're gonna flip that over, baste the top, baste the sides, and then the bottoms, it's just the pocket bag gets sewn together. So that's what we're doing now. Okay, so now we're gonna work on the inseam. I've put the front and the back of the pants together. I'm matching the inseam at the center, and then I'm gonna match it at the bottom, and I'm gonna slightly stretch it so that the two pant legs fit together perfectly. Add a bunch of pins and sew that with a 5/8 inch seam allowance. So there's one pant leg, and here is the other pant leg. Same thing, kind of match up the center, match up the bottom, and then stretch a little to make the entire pant leg fit onto itself, and then bring it over to the sewing machine and sew it together. And you'll notice when I sew it, I am going to start at the center and sew to the end of each pant leg. I'm not going to do it in one fell swoop. I'm going to go center down to the bottom and then flip it around and go center down to the bottom of the other side. And this is a seam that you're going to want to finish either with a zigzag or a serger. I'm just doing the entire thing. I'm not starting at the center and moving. I'm just starting at one pant leg, going to the middle, and then down the other pant leg so everything's nice and finished on the inside. Okay, so now we've got that. We need to flip it and kind of look at what is happening. And we're going to top stitch over that center seam. So you're going to want to press it so that the seam allowance is on one side, and the side that the seam allowance is on is the side that you're going to top stitch. And that's the thing with jeans and work pants, is almost every single seam is top stitch. You'll see that on jeans, your ready to wear jeans. Every seam is top stitched except for the outer leg seam, because then it would just be, it would be really hard to top stitch that one because the pants are already, in a tube, which would make it very difficult to top stitch that. But the inner leg seam is top stitched, making your jeans sturdy and less likely to rip. Once you top stitch it once, start again and top stitch it a second time. Okay, at this point, we've got to get the side seams together. So get it back to inside out, right sides facing, starting at the top, pin your way to the bottom, all the way down the side seams on both the left and the right side. And once you're pinned, go ahead and use a 5/8 inch seam allowance, starting at the top, working your way down to the bottom. Sew the side seam. And then don't forget to finish it with your finishing of your choice. In my case, white serger. All right, so guess what time it is now? It's belt loop time. And I'm gonna fold my belt loops into 3. I feel like 3 layers is not too much for my sewing machine to handle. And then I'm actually gonna zigzag down the middle of the belt loop. I do mine on just a little bit different. Fold it into 3, zigzag down the middle, and then I'm gonna go ahead and cut that piece, that one long piece, into 5 shorter pieces of equal length, approximately 3.5 inches long. And then I'm going to go ahead and pin the belt loops in the spots recommended in the instructions, which is basically right where the front pockets start and 3 in the back, 1 in the middle, and 2 closer to the left and right side. Now I'm just gonna sew over. I want the raw edge of the belt loop at the raw edge of the top of the pants, the top raw edge of the pants. That is what I'm first gonna sew over. So I don't have to worry about the bottom edge. I'm just sewing over the top on all 5 of these belt loops. And then when the waistband gets sewn, the other edge of the belt loops will get sewn. Okay, so here's the waistband. I've actually sewn 2 pieces of interfacing together to make it long enough for this waistband because I just didn't want to waste a bunch of interfacing. I had 2 smaller pieces that I knew would be fine to sew them together to fit the length of the waistband. I'm going to go ahead and iron that onto the wrong side of one of my waistband pieces. The other one's not interfaced, just one. Then once that's on there pretty good, I'm going to go ahead and pin the longer edge of this interface waistband all along the top of the pants. So there's a curve. So if you look at it, the longer edge of the curve is what is now going to get pinned and then sewn to the top of the pants so that when it folds up, it comes in a little bit because that's going to be at your waist. And notice how I kind of pinned one side, then I skipped over to the other side, and I'm going to ease it before I sew it on. So now that I pinned it, I'm going to go ahead and sew that with a 5/8 inch seam allowance onto my pants. And what's happening is the belt loops are getting sewn over. So when you just basted the belt loop tops on, now sewing this waistband on, it's going to reinforce what you already sewed. So the belt loops will still be loose once this is sewn on. And then on the waistband that doesn't have the interfacing, I'm going to fold up that longer edge of the waistband, the bottom of the curve. I'm going to fold that towards the wrong side before I sew it onto my second waistband, before I sew the waistbands together. And then the other thing I'm going to do before I sew the waistbands together is make sure that these belt loops are pinned up and they're going to get caught properly in this seam. So once those are all facing up, then I can pin my second waistband on. Now this is right sides together, and I'm pinning the edge that's not folded to the top raw edge of the pants, the top raw edge of the waistband that's already on the pants. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that. And when I sew this, I'll not only be sewing the 2 layers of waistbands together, I've also am catching the belt loops in this as well. So a quick note here, not only am I sewing the waistbands together, I am going to sew the ends of the waistbands together. So once I get to the corner here, I'm going to turn the corner and sew the short side. And the short side at the beginning should be sewn as well. Then I'm going to clip the corners and turn this baby right side out so that the waistband that doesn't have the interfacing is what's going to go to the inside of the pants. And because you folded that edge in the step before, that folded edge is what's going to cover up all the raw edges inside the pants and make everything look super neat and finished. So at this point, that is what I'm doing. I'm finger pressing. You may want to grab the iron and press this just for the sake of ease in the video. I'm just finger pressing and adding pins. And then I'm also realizing that I want my pins to be on the outside because that's where I'm going to be sewing. So now that you've got that waistband folded into the inside and all your pins are on the outside of the pants, you're just about ready to go ahead and top stitch all of that. So you've got to be really careful. You're sewing on the outside, but you have to be hitting the folded edge of the waistband that's on the inside. So basically when I pinned it, I made sure that where the pins were on the outside were hitting in the proper place on the inside. Hopefully that makes sense. It's sort of like doing a quilt binding. You've got to make sure that you get that folded edge. Now, my machine is having a little bit of trouble getting over where the belt loops are. So do your best. If you have to skip where the belt loops are, you could just go ahead and add some tack, some hand sewing tacks in that area after if you can't get over the belt loops, because yeah, my corduroy is pretty heavy, all the interfacing, all the fabric, it was just having a hard time, and I'm not on my big strong industrial machine. Probably should have been, but I imagine you are not doing that either. So just do your best, and like I said, skip over the spots that are too thick and just go back and fix those with some hand sewing tacks. Ooh, am I gonna get over this one? Oh, nope. Yeah, the motor was having some issues there again. So that's totally normal if that's what's happening to yours as well. And now I'm at the other side. My waistband is on there. Oh my gosh, I'm so close. Let's get a hem on these. If you want to try them on, go for it. Figure out where you want the hem, but I am just going to do 2 1/4-inch folds. So basically I folded and ironed at 1/2 inch, and then I tucked the top part of it under, giving me 2 1/4-inch folds at the bottom, and I'm just going ahead and pinning that all the way around. Yes, you guessed it. The next step is to sew that all the way around on both of the pant legs. I usually just start at the back so that I finish at the back and you don't see the doubled up thread in the front of the pants. Doesn't really matter. Oh, it's having a hard time. My machine was getting tired in these last steps. So again, if that seam is too much to sew over, skip it, add a little hand sewing tack. and hold your breath as you go over the bumps. Alrighty, here we go. I've got everything on here except my little button to close. I'm going to lay it on there, make a buttonhole, and I'm just going to use a big regular button. I am not putting any rivets on these. I'm not using a snap. I'm just using a regular button and buttonhole. There's my buttonhole. And let's see, I'm going to snip my threads and cut it open and figure out what button to put on here. Found one. Found this cute little teal button. It slips in and out of my buttonhole beautifully. So I'm going to go ahead and hand sew this baby on here and try on my pants. This has been a super fun project to sew with you guys. It's probably one of the most complicated projects that I've done on a video before. I hope it's helpful for you, and I hope that you have fun putting some cool work pockets on your Dawn jeans. Any questions? I'm over at hipstitch-academy.com. I'd love to hear from you, so tell me what you think of the video.